Have you ever been stuck in a train station, stuck at the airport, or just stuck at home because your car's broke down? You're just going along with the motions, you're doing everything you should, and you're just plugging along with life, and then it happens, bam, and it stops everything. You really can't do anything, and so you sit there, and you wonder what you can do with your time. You try hard to get your situation resolved, but you really wonder why you got there. I remember being stuck on a bus on the side of the road out in the middle of nowhere. Tire flew off of it, went across the street, crashed through a fence. It's really kind of cool for a teenager to see. I was waiting there. As I was waiting there, I had a conversation with the person in front of me. She kept asking me about Jesus. Called me narrow-minded. Called me a few other names too. But it reminds me, Paul and Silas. See, in the first century, Paul and Silas did everything that they were supposed to do. They traveled around the entire world, the known world at that time, preaching about Jesus. And they ended up getting beaten for it and thrown into prison. When they were in prison, they did something kind of odd. In Acts chapter 16, it tells about them singing praises to God and praying at midnight. At midnight. In a jail. Now, we're not talking about a minimum security prison nowadays. They were in the inner cell. That would have been in the middle, the lowest part. And their feet were fastened with stocks. That means they really didn't have much space to move. It was probably cramping. They probably got cramped up a little bit. And, well, to be honest, there was raw sewage passing in front of them because at the lowest part of the prison, there was the excrement trough that flowed through. So here these guys are. They're in prison, and it's midnight, and they're singing praises to God. Now, not really sure what they were singing, but back then the Jews relied heavily on history, and Paul already had the book of Psalms. Maybe he was saying, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. For you are with me, and you are by my side. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. And then looking into the future, maybe he would say, and you're going to prepare a table for me in front of my enemies. Surely your goodness and mercy are going to follow me all the days of my life. Maybe that's what he was saying. And maybe people were wondering, are you nuts? What's wrong with you? Do you not see the reality around you? Maybe they thought that Paul wasn't a realist. Maybe they thought that maybe Paul was being delusional, or that he was denying the fact that he was in prison. Prison was not a place of hope. Prison was not a place where you would want to, where you couldn't be. It just wasn't a place you could be happy. But the funny thing is that when Paul was singing and Silas was singing and they were praying, the doors of the prison flew open and the chains fell off. Not only of Paul and Silas, but of everybody within earshot of them, everybody in the prison. And so the jailer at that time, he pulled out a sword to kill himself, a dagger actually, because he would rather die than be tortured by the Roman authorities for having failed. And Paul said, wait, don't harm yourself. We're all still here. Then the Philippian jailer called for the lights, told the guards, hey, bring me a light, bring me over to this guy who's talking. And he went over to Paul and he said, what must I do to be saved? And Paul said, believe in Jesus. That's pretty much it. You see, when you really worship God, chains are broken, doors fling wide open for you to share the gospel. That situation that you find yourself in, at the airport, at the train station, in a bus on the side of the road, you can complain about it. You can sit there and you can be like the rest of the people, or you can take that time and worship God. You can take that time and watch chains fall off of you and of those who hear you. Believe in the Lord Jesus and you will be saved, you and your household. And he was baptized at once. And he rejoiced along with his entire household that he had believed. When you truly worship God, when you truly engage with God, chains will be broken. Those chains that have held you and those chains that have held others. So when you find yourself in the pit, in the dungeon, when you find yourself with no hope, seemingly stranded and left to die by everybody else, realize in that time you can engage in spiritual warfare by lifting praises to God. And when you do, you're building a throne for God. It says in his word that God inhabits the praise of his people. Build a throne today for God. That hopeless situation that you find yourself in, worship God. Praise Jesus for what has happened and what's going to happen and how he's going to get you out of it, because he will. And then when people around you think that you're unrealistic and kind of wacko, after it's all said and done, they're going to ask you about the hope that you have inside. And be prepared to tell them. Have a great day.